So it's interesting. There's no reseeding in the NBA playoffs like there is in the NFL. So you've got 2 3-games-to-1 leads right now with the Knicks over the Sixers and the Pacers over the Bucks. And it's interesting how many folks out there were like, Knicks should not have gone for that 2 seed because you want to avoid all this stuff. You want to, and now here come the Pacers potentially coming anyway in the second round. So let's not, I guess, count chickens there. Anything can possibly happen. But what do you think is happening today with the Philadelphia 76ers and Nick Nurse and, the Knick fans, echoes of Knick fans still reverberating around, the Sixers home court? What do you think is happening in Philadelphia today?
First of all, it's not surprising that so many Knicks fans were at that game. I mean, I lived in New York for a lot of years. You hop on the Amtrak, you're at Philadelphia in 45 minutes. You look at some of the ticket pricing for Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
It costs like $1,000 just to get in the building for some of these games. You can get good tickets to a Sixers game for like $100, like these playoff games. So if I'm a Knicks fan and I can't afford 4 tickets to go to see the Knicks play at MSG, I'm sure as hell hopping on that Amtrak.
You're probably still even, clearing.
Probably in plus. You're up.
You're probably
in
plus,
the black
right? Even with the cost of the train ticket.
100%. So I'm not surprised at all to see that many. In fact, if they play Indiana, they'll probably be in Indiana too. They'll probably outnumber or at least be well heard.
But this scene in the First Union, man, is just something.
Knicks fans do have a habit of like over celebrating sometimes.
Listen, it's been dark times, but even I'm back now.
What was it? Was it last year when they played? Was it last year they played Atlanta when? I think they won the first game, and it was like pandemonium.
No, I think that was
Garden.
actually the first regular season win. Actually, that was that was the video of them actually winning their first regular season when I think Brunson had just arrived and Randall was there, and it's just been really dark times. And again, what Brunson stands for and how he has performed, you alluded to it at the beginning of this conversation. It's infectious. It's infectious, and hope is more. It's concrete, because obviously the Pacers are a very good team. Knicks fans, I'm sure, are looking at the Eastern Conference Finals right now and thinking, "Well, we just dismantled the Celtics towards the end of the regular season." I know that's just 1 game out of 7.
Yeah, that's the one. I know. I was at that game in Boston, and look, the Celtics spent like a month and a half with nothing to play for, really. So they were kind of going through the motions at the end of that regular season. That's the matchup I think is most problematic for New York because
for anyone in the league.
For anyone. But Jalen Brunson's the head of the snake with the Knicks, and the Celtics have waves of elite defenders they can throw at him. Derek White, Drew Holiday, Jaylen Brown. I mean, they can cause Jalen Brunson a lot of problems without having to send multiple defenders that Jalen likes is able to play off of in that sense. So that's a matchup that I don't think is great for the Knicks. I think the Pacers, though, is a good one. That's kind of a frenetic pace the Pacers want to play at. But that's a series I think the Knicks can win as well. It's just that if you get to Boston, that's a tough one. That's a tough one, I think, for them to win.
Well, again, like I said, it could be a tough one for anybody to win this year in the NBA playoffs. But I guess I digressed us when I started talking about Knicks fans. But what is going on 1 point for Embiid in the fourth quarter, all sorts of rebounding problems on their defensive glass. I'm wondering what they are thinking today. Your best guess in Philly.
Well, I think what they should be thinking is that even though we're down 3-1, this is still a winnable series because there's certainly a scenario where they could be up 3-1 right now. I mean, the end of game 2,
right? The
NBA already admitted they blew some of those calls down the stretch. They could have won that game in New York. If they didn't blow that game in the fourth quarter, if they didn't allow OG Anunoby to turn into Ben Wallace out there defending Joel Embiid, they could have won that game as well. So I think if they can get their minds right here, if they can believe that this is not a series where their opponent is not on their level, they can win. Now, the Garden is going to be chaos on, Tuesday? The Garden's going to be nuts.
Right.
So there's going to be a lot of momentum on the side of the Knicks going into that game. But if the Sixers can ease into it, take the crowd out of that game a little bit, Embiid is still a lot of times the best player on the floor.
He had a 50-piece in game 3.
He's still ridiculous. The problem is you look at the numbers, right? The on-off minutes for Embiid, they're awful. Like the Sixers cannot win the minutes when Embiid's not on the floor. So that's forcing Nick Nurse to play a guy that is still working his way back into shape after coming off the injury he had in the second half of the season. And it's clearly still injured. Like, you see him out there. Every time he goes down the wrong way, he comes up a little bit gimpy. So the combination of that and Nick Nurse having to keep him out there so often in the first three quarters that you see a lesser version in the fourth, that's a problem the Sixers have to solve going to this Game 5.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.